Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we do have a hand cam, so we're going to be looking at keyboard and mouse as well as controller today. We're going to be talking about how to track players in game and why do players make it look so easy. And at the end of the day, it is relatively easy. If you guys saw my previous video talking about how to control recoil, you guys will kind of understand the direction I'm going with this, but you'll kind of see it play out. We're going to talk about some best tips to actually help you track players a little bit better. If you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, just double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. And this video is going to apply for both console as well as PC players. So we're going to go ahead and lock that to 80 FOV so it keeps it as consistent as possible. And then what we're going to do is look at the controller settings. So there's different controller settings. I have triggers flipped so I can aim with my L1, R1, that's LB, RB on Xbox. And then pretty much I have default, stick layout, inverted. I do not have that inverted, even though some people do. Literally with inverted, you can literally trace the recoil pattern, which is kind of funny that you could do it that way, but my mind doesn't work that way. Dead zone, I have this low because it's a relatively new control. This is a PS4 stock controller. I did buy the buttons that PlayStation sells, and I have some Control Freak grips on here because my hands sweat. You can see a little bit of sweat on there. And then we have the precision ring, which helps a little bit of aim, and Control Freak thumbstick. So straightforward there. I have a 6.7 sensitivity, a little bit unorthodox, but that's what's comfortable. This is probably the most important setting, along with DPI and regular sensitivity. If you are struggling to hit your shots, this is the vast majority of the reason why. There's plenty of people that can do a 10-10. Perfectly fine. Kudos. If you're good enough to do that, rock it. You're all good. You never miss a shot. Good for you. There are some people that are rocking that are not hitting their shots. So I recommend lowering the sense. If it's too high, you're not missing. And if you're missing shots, you definitely need to adjust it. My ADS low zoom is down to 80% or 0.8. And then my high zoom is 1.1. And this one you got to be aware of on certain optics that are a little bit higher on regular rifles. But primarily I have that one for my snipers since they do tend to have a little bit slower drag. I have a dynamic response curve, vibration disabled, standard aim assist, scale aim assist with FOV enabled. And that's pretty much it for that part. When we go to our keyboard and mouse, I am rocking 400 DPI on here with a 5 sensitivity with all of the other advanced ADS multipliers set to 1. So I get consistent regardless if I'm aiming down sight or not. The only thing that'll change is my effective view as far as how much I'm zoomed in. Let's go ahead and check this out in match. So the guns we're going to be looking at are the Amex, which is very popular. And then as of recently, the Ram 7. We're going to be using them both for range. One of the things that does happen with changing your FOV and having affected FOV is that you'll get a little bit less visual recoil, give a little bit of illusion because you're kind of zoomed out. And because of that perspective change, it'll look like you have less recoil. But literally when you fire your weapon, you have the same recoil as everyone. I can change FOV. And this pattern will not change. So right here, it goes from that brick to the other. If we change the FOV up to, let's say, 110. It looks like way less, but it still goes from the same spot to the same spot. And the only thing that changes is the visual component of it, which some people struggle with. But once you get that it's just visual and it's not actual recoil, you're much better at handling recoil. Even at something like 100 meters, we're literally going to aim, hold the stick down. And AMAX, since it goes basically vertical, literally all you're doing is holding down. So we've also done the same thing with the RAM. We know that it goes up and then to the left. So pretty much if I'm trying to track somebody, I would pull down and then to the right to offset that. So if I'm aiming here, I'm going to adjust. And even at 100 meters, 90 meters, there's not like a ton of recoil. Like there is, but there isn't. I just pull down. If I'm trying to hit somebody on the head glitch, it's relatively easy even at 80 FOV. So people make excuses with that. I don't have any funny business on here. Literally, I have Control Freaks and I have the right sensitivity for me, which I've been able to figure out from playing COD for quite a while. And most good players that invest even a couple hours a week know the right sensitivity, unless they're just copying others. So I would highly recommend not copying mine because that might not be comfortable or work for you. And that is a huge mistake a lot of people fall into. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about tracking. So what happens is with a gun like this is if I want to track somebody that's moving from right to left, I do not have to pull down to the right as much because the gun is organically going to pull to the left. So ideally, that is why it's important to know the recoil patterns. So for this gun, if I wanted to track along the wall if somebody's running this way. Pretty much I would pull down and the gun would automatically start pulling to the left. So along this wall that is 100 meters away, I'm going to aim, and then I'll adjust my aim a little bit and it'll automatically track. Obviously there's no visible target there, so it's a little bit harder. I'm going to have my friend jump in right now so you'll be able to see. But pretty much you can track along the wall and it chases. If I want to get a little bit closer to the wall, trace the wall a little bit better, I can do that as well. And I did it kind of at a fast pace. AMAX is the same thing. A little bit trickier because you have to pull down and adjust. But the nice part about controller versus keyboard and mouse is when I pull down this stick, it has a constant input. Even though I'm not doing anything, I'm literally just holding my finger still, it's still applying the same input. So when you get enough when you get enough hours into the game, I can already know that the amount of input that I need to add to this, so that when I'm right here, I already know, okay, let me add the appropriate amount of input so the gun doesn't move hardly. It made those recoil patterns disappear. But let's say I get my recoil pattern, I learn to hold it down a certain amount. Difference with keyboard and mouse is if I pull down, the input doesn't stay there. I have to continue to manually apply an input, so I have to gradually adjust for that input the entire time. So depending on your sensitivity, your mouse space, or those factors, the gun you're using, you're going to want to be able to have that adjusting. That's why there's way more skill in the mouse because of that precision needed to hold it. Even though you have more control over the input, you have to have more precision. Whereas with this, I literally, once I know the right recoil, I'll just hold down and the gun will do it. I don't even got to move my thumb. Oh, that was too much. I'm actually looking at my hand, not even at the screen. So you just adjust it based off that. Using the input right here, I know, okay, let me adjust that. And I shoot pretty much all in the same spot when I'm aiming there. And I just do the adjustment necessary to make that happen. So we can see my buddy Earl over there, and you can see him right at 100-ish meters. Pretty much he's going to start from right where he is, run towards the wall, and then I'll be able to track him here. Go ahead. So pretty much I would shoot, pull down, and then hold to the right. And you would like follow the tracers. Oh, don't run yet. Go ahead. Go back. And then pretty much I'm leading the tracers a little bit because the bullet velocity is a little bit slower with the RAM. And then when he runs from the right side to the left, it's pretty much the exact same. Go ahead. And then pretty much what I'm doing is trying to lead the shots so that my tracers are hitting him, because that's pretty much how the bullets will reg with the slower bullet velocity. So what we're going to see here is with the RAM, when he stands right there and runs to the right, I have to pull aggressively to the right because the recoil wants to pull it to the left. I'm going to go ahead and reload. And when they want to go run to the left, it's a little bit easier because the recoil organically goes to the left. So I don't even have to actually try that hard. And you can see the tracking is super easy because you get that steady input. With that being said, let's go ahead and swap over to keyboard and mouse. So in my case, I don't even play a lot of keyboard and mouse. I have kind of gotten out of practice. But let's say if I just hold this here, I aim, pull the trigger, you can see kind of how the recoil goes. So normally what you would do is you have to apply steady pressure on keyboard and mouse. So if I was going here, you have to move the mouse slightly. And that's kind of how that would work, the exact same thing as we're getting with controller. But instead, you can have a steady input where I just go there and go, all right, cool. The controller has to do it as long as my thumb's in the right spot. I literally have to aim and then pull down to get the mouse to go where I want. And I'm not even the most proficient keyboard and mouse player there is. Ooh, that one has a little bit more recoil. But you see how far you have to adjust it. That is kind of what you have to do. And we'll see it right here in game with a player running back and forth like we just saw. So now we can see my buddy over there, kind of 100 meters. We're pretty much going to do the exact same thing that we were doing before, where I'm pulling down the trigger and then I'm adjusting my aim. And you can see that pretty much, it pretty much has a straight shot. If he's going to be running from that side to the other, I still have to do the same thing, but now I have to adjust to the left as well. So pretty much if he runs now, I'll have to pull down, and then I'll have to be ahead of him, and I'll have to hit him at that distance. So it's not like super hard because the recoil in COD is not that crazy. If we go over here, we can do the same thing with this one. We know the recoil goes up and to the left. So this one I'm going to have to pull way harder to account for it. What a weirdo. All right, go ahead and run. So pretty much I would do that, and I'd have to adjust pretty heavily for the ram when he runs from left to right. But if he runs this way, I just have to kind of pull down because the gun pulls to the left on its own. So that's why the recoil patterns on this one, when people are running from right to left, is super easy because then you just pull down and the gun will pull to the left on its own automatically. So it ends up being one of those things where, like, that's why I think RAM might be that type of gun, is because usually once you're in there, it's like, oh, cool, the gun's doing the rest of it for me. You don't have to adjust that hard because if the player's moving, it actually becomes even easier. So in this case, if I just pull down, and that's the AMAX, what a lot of people think is hard, but let's go ahead and do that again just so you can kind of see for your sake. We'll go down to 80. 80 is cool. 80, boom, and boom. Now we got the same thing here. We get a little bit more zoom this time around, and then it looks like it moves a lot more, but 45 bullets literally to his chest at 100 meters. People are like, how do people do it? And you know, and that's just kind of how it is. So at the end of the day, what it really comes down to, if you're struggling with aim, one is you're not looking at the recoil patterns of the weapons to understand them. Two, you're not having the right sensitivity settings, because there's both. You have to have the regular sensitivity, which the regular sensitivity, you want to make sure you can aim when you can hip fire. And then you have the ADS one, which you can either keep the same or you can lower it. Depending on if you're controller or not, it might be more advantageous. And then you have high zoom for when you're sniping. And you kind of have those adjustments. But I highly recommend figuring out what those settings are so that when you get into a situation, you're not going to miss your shots. And that's kind of how it goes. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learn something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.